If you're at all familiar with the show Star Trek, then you're likely familiar with tribbles. Tribbles, the small, furry, seemingly harmless creatures that begin to rapidly multiply until they've filled up the greater part of the Star Trek Enterprise. Well, today I'd like to discuss another seemingly innocuous creature, the marbled crayfish. We will discuss its enigmatic beginnings, its rapid cross-continental spread, and what may be in store in the future for this prolific crustacean. The marbled crayfish, also known as Procambarus Virginalis or Marmarkrebs in German, was first discovered in a small aquarium in Germany in 1995. What makes this crayfish particularly unique is its ability to reproduce asexually through a process called parthenogenesis. The females come with eggs that are already fertilized, and it's able to essentially clone itself. It is currently unknown how Procambarus Virginalis adapted the ability to self-replicate, but there are some theories. One of those theories being that Procambarus fallax, a closely related species of crayfish, underwent a meiotic mutation which gave it a third set of chromosomes. Most creatures, if they're not naturally triploidal, if they develop another set of chromosomes, tend to die. But for whatever reason, the marbled crayfish survived and continued to self-replicate. A second theory is that Procambarus fallax and another closely related crayfish mated and bred Procambarus virginalis in captivity. It's important to note that nowhere in the world are there any known native species of Procambarus virginalis, which makes it all the more fascinating how rapidly it spread from a small aquarium in Germany all across Europe to Belgium, to Switzerland, to Sweden, to the Netherlands. In fact, many countries throughout Europe have banned this invasive crayfish because it began to affect native crayfish populations. Under the European Union, it cannot be legally released anywhere in Europe. And we began to have a similar issue in the United States when the crayfish was first introduced in Florida. In Florida, it spread to Tennessee and up through Missouri, Idaho, Michigan, and many other states in which the crayfish is now also banned, since those states followed suit with the European Union and outlawed this invasive crayfish. As previously discussed, many regions are outlawing the crayfish, but what else can be done about its rapid spread? Well, several regions throughout Europe, especially Switzerland, tried eradication attempts which had all failed. This is of course because if you miss just a single marbled crayfish, that's all it will take to begin repopulating the area. The marbled crayfish has also been looked at as a possible model organism for scientific studies, kind of how we use lab rats today. Since they are essentially genetically identical clones of each other, they're ideal in that regard for scientific studies. But their long generational time makes them a little bit problematic. They can live up to about 3 years at a time. In Madagascar, they're being looked at as a potential food source, because in Madagascar, the population of marbled crayfish has exploded into the millions. This is because they're often intentionally bred to be not only a cheap source of animal protein for humans, but as a food source for livestock. So, to wrap things up, I hope now you're a little more familiar with the incidental genesis of the marbled crayfish and how this real-world tribble began to rapidly spread all across the globe. Maybe even now you have some of your own ideas on how to handle the marbled crayfish, whether that's to farm it as food, to run experiments on it, or to just let it be. Thank you.